Hey everybody, welcome back to the next installment of Savage Declutter. In this one, it's going to be part one of the face. So I have all of my setting sprays over here, then foundations, concealers, and primers. I will have a part two of the face, which will include blush, bronzer, highlight, contour, and any powder foundations that I have. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I'm gonna start off with the primers because I have a ton of them. For reference, I have very, very, very oily skin and I'm constantly trying out new primers, and as of right now, I still do not have a Holy Grail primer that actually controls my oil. I've tried a ton of these that were recommended by you guys and a lot of them just didn't work for me. So keep in mind, if I don't like any of these products, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're all terrible, but they didn't work for me for whatever reason. Let's get started. This first one is the Ebates Flawless Effects Skincare Mattifying Emulsion, and it is from Figs and Rouge. I got this in a subscription box. I don't even remember where from, but it didn't really keep me matte for longer than like an hour, so for that reason it's out. Next up is this Coola Daydream Mineral Primer. Just did not work for me. It's basically only good as a sunscreen for me, and I have already ones that I love for that, so this one's out. Next up is this Makeup Forever Step 1, and this is the Smoothing Primer. This one is okay in terms of smoothing. It doesn't really keep me matte though, and I would continue to use it, but it's pretty much at the end of its little tube, so I'm just gonna toss it. Probably will not repurchase this one. The Benefit Porefessional. This one just doesn't work for me. It doesn't even fill my pores. Like, it looks like I'm not wearing a pore filling primer at all. And after about an hour, my pores look even worse than they were whenever I first started out. So this one's just complete crap. I don't recommend this product to anybody. I know a lot of people have had success with it, but for me, it was really bad. The Dr. Brandt Pores No More. I did a full review on this one and actually kind of compared it to the Porefessional as well, but this was just crap. It was the same thing. It made my pores look okay whenever I first started out, but after a couple hours, it's just completely gone. Like, the effects don't last with this, and it also gave me tiny little breakouts, so this one is going. Same thing with the Lorac Porefection. This just doesn't work for me. I just don't feel like it does anything to mattify, and it doesn't make my pores look any better than they already are. Next up, we have Manna Kadar Runway Ready Face Primer. This is just a basic silicone face primer. Not really good for mattifying, so for that reason it's going. Then I have the Becca Backlight Priming Filter. This is the one in the champagne tube. It has a little bit of like glow to it. I don't know if you can really tell right there, but it is very glowy. I think for someone with dry skin, you would absolutely love this. And I do like how it gives me a nice healthy glow, but it's just not right for me as a primer, so I'm gonna pass this along. Next up is this Cover FX Mattifying Primer with anti-acne treatment in it. This did not mattify at all, and I don't really know about the anti-acne stuff. It has salicylic acid, so I'm sure it does something, but if it's not mattifying, it's not for me. Then I have this No. 7 Airbrush Away Pore Minimizing Primer. This, for a drugstore primer, was really expensive. It was $20. I think I got it on a buy one, get one half off, so I paid half for it, but still, $20 is really pricey for a drugstore primer, and it did not work at all. I feel like the results of this one were very, very similar to the Dr. Brandt. So if you are looking for a drugstore dupe and you do like Dr. Brandt, this one is very, very similar. But for me, of course, that means that it didn't fill my pores that well for what I need, and it also gave me the exact same little tiny breakouts, just really, really, really tiny little pinhead sized whiteheads on there. So both of these just no good. Next up, I have the Makeup Forever Step 1 Base Mattifying one. This one I did actually purchase. It wasn't a free gift with purchase. You know, oh, Did you see all that liquid that came out of there? This one, I hate that you do actually have to like, you know, shake it up really well whenever you use it and knead it around. I kept this around last time and I tried to use it more because it seemed like it worked kind of okay, but this whole time whenever I've been trying it, I'm just never truly happy with the results, and it doesn't mattify as well as I would like it to and would need it to, so it's gonna go. Then I have this Flower Beauty In Your Prime Pore Minimizing Primer. I just did a review on this along with a couple other Flower Beauty products. Check for that on my channel below. But this did absolutely nothing. As a pore minimizing primer, this was probably the absolute worst one that I've tried. It does nothing at all, and it does not mattify either. So just don't with this one. Then I have the Ulta Matte Prime. This was kind of pricey also, I feel like, for like an Ulta kind of primer. I think this was 18 bucks, but I got it on sale, of course. It just did not work. No mattifying effects whatsoever. So this one is out as well. Next up, I have the Catrice Prime and Fine Pore Refining Anti-Shine Base. This is actually, like, a lot of these pore filling primers are like, you know, silicone-y. Look at this one. It's very, very liquid and like white. It does absolutely nothing. This is like putting on a face lotion. It's just complete crap. Complete crap. Next up, I have the Smashbox Photo Finish Foundation Primer, the original. It's just a basic silicone primer. If you have normal or kind of like combo skin, you'd probably like this. I don't think anybody's ever purchased the full size because they hand these things out like candy on Halloween. So the little tiny ones are always coming my way. I always give them a shot and then I never end up liking it. It just does nothing for me, so it's going. We got 4 left here. Let me just talk about this one real quick. This is the YSL Touche Eclat Blur Primer. I talked about this in my last declutter. Sephora actually sent this to me on accident. They included this in my order and it was supposed to go to somebody else. And they ended up just letting me keep it. So I was like, cool, I'll use it. You can tell I still haven't used a whole lot, but I do use it pretty much every time that I film, just around the perimeter of my face where I do tend to get a little bit drier from my acne treatments. But I'll keep it because it was free. I don't recommend that you buy it though. I don't feel like it's worth the money, but it's a nice bottle and that's why I keep it around. So this one is staying. Let's talk about this one because I know I'm keeping this one. This is my all-time favorite pore filling primer. It is the only one that has ever given me like day-long lasting results. It still doesn't really necessarily help me to stay completely matte all day, but in the aspect of pore filling, it is the best. I have not tried anything better. So this I would highly, highly recommend if you do need pore filling. Last two, the NYX Shine Killer. This is supposed to be a mattifying one. I feel like it's kind of similar to this Ulta one. This did nothing, absolutely nothing for me. I don't really understand the point of it. It just did nothing. And then the last one was a primer that was very highly recommended by you guys to help control oily skin. It is the Becca Evermatte Poreless Priming Perfector. And it didn't work for me, guys. I don't know if my skin is just way too oily for it or something, but for me, it did nothing. I got maybe an hour's worth of mattifying, which is kind of close to what I would get with pretty much any primer, regardless of whether it's mattifying or not. So I'm glad I only purchased the travel size and not the full size because it just did not work for me. So out of all those primers, I'm keeping the 2 that I use pretty much the most. Everything else was kind of crappy. So I have a pore filling one and I have a basic silicone. Still on the hunt for my perfect mattifying primer. If you have suggestions, don't forget to leave them below. All right, moving right along. I'm trying to make these not quite as long as my most recent one. My eyeshadow palette one was really long. I'm sorry about that, guys, but if you have time, give it a watch. I think I did pretty good with that one. But let's move on to concealers. First up, let's talk about this Benefit Boing Airbrush Concealer. I have it in number 1. This was a gift with purchase, I think, at Ulta. And let me just show you. The color on it is okay, maybe like a touch light for me, but it works. However, this makes my under eyes look incredibly dry, and anytime that I would put it on, it would kind of like bunch up and cling, and it just was not attractive, so this is gonna go. All right, this one is the Maybelline Dream Lumi Touch Highlighting Concealer. This is one of my favorite no makeup day concealers. It's a perfect shade for me. This is in Buff. They did, however, recently redo the whole shade range, and I think they actually eliminated some shades and then renamed them all. So I'm not sure what shade I am in the new selection or if I'll even like it. But if you can find your shade in that one, it's worth a shot because this has pretty good coverage. It's kind of light, but for me, even with really dark circles, I feel like it still looks really natural and nice, and it never clings to anything under my eyes. Next up is the NYX Dark Circle Concealer. I have mine in medium because it's more of like a kind of salmon-y color. I love that it does some color correction. I use this underneath the concealer that I'm gonna wear. So this is more of a color corrector for me, but I'm definitely keeping this one. Next up, I have the Kat Von D Lock-It Concealer Cream, and this is an L11 Neutral. This was in a Sephora Play box, and whenever I first tried it, I thought, oh, this is nice. But then I looked at it later, and it creased so terribly bad that I was kind of like, I don't know about that. I tried to use it several other times, and it just never looks good under my eyes after, you know, about an hour or so. For me, it's going. Next up is this NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer. I have this in the color Vanilla. I actually need to purchase the next shade up, and this is getting a little bit dried out. Like, I can see directly down into the tube, so really the only stuff left is like on the sides. So I'm gonna let this one go. It is a good concealer, however, though, and I do intend to purchase the next cool toned shade up from here. I just haven't done it yet though, but this is good. It's a solid product. I would definitely recommend it. I do have a full review on this product on my channel. Down below you can see the list of stuff. Next up is one that they say is very similar to it, but I talked about this in the review. I don't feel like it's very similar. It is the Maybelline Fit Me Concealer, and I have it in the color 15 Fair. I used this quite a bit, but I actually found a different one that I like more, so I'm gonna let this one go. It's just an okay concealer. After trying the other one, I wouldn't go back to this one. The one that I do like in its place, though, is the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Concealer, and I have mine in the color Light Ivory. This is my probably favorite no makeup or light makeup day concealer, whereas, let's see, this one is more of a I'm not wearing anything on my face except concealer kind of concealer. This one I like to wear whenever I'm not wearing anything or whenever I'm just wearing a little bit of powder or a really light foundation. I do have a full review on it and the foundation on my channel pretty recently here, so go ahead and check that out if you're interested in my full thoughts on it, but I would definitely recommend this, and I'm keeping it. Next up, this Catrice Liquid Camouflage Concealer. I have mine in number 10 Porcelain. There are only, I think, 4 shades of this. It's a really crappy shade range. However, it is a really good concealer, and you can see I've used pretty much down to about here on it. I used to use it like pretty much every single day. It's taken a backseat recently since I've been trying out so many things, but this one is a true full coverage concealer. And if you can find a shade that would match you, I highly recommend purchasing this. It just doesn't get any better than this. In the last declutter, I actually ended up getting rid of my Naked Skin concealer in favor of this one. So this one's staying. The next up is this IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Under Eye Full Coverage Anti-Aging Waterproof Concealer with Hydro Collagen Vitamin C and K. Aren't we just so over how long their names are? But anyway, this one is in the color Neutral Medium, and I really like this one. I had a little sample of it last declutter and ended up pretty much using it all until I was like, okay, it's time to get rid of it. And then I ended up getting this one in another sample box, or maybe it was a gift with purchase, I can't remember, but I love it. I'm keeping it. This is a really good concealer. And then the last concealer is the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Glow, and I have mine in Creamy Natural. Guys, this shade is just absolute crap. This is like almost orange. It's really kind of scary, and this has zero coverage. It is almost like wearing nothing, and not in a good way. It literally just like goes away as soon as you try to blend it in. I don't know what they were thinking with this, but it's complete crap. I would not recommend it to anybody, and the shade range is really, really terrible. Like, this was pretty much the lightest that I could go without it being like almost white. So this is crap. So for the concealers, I actually ended up getting rid of 5 and keeping 5. I feel like this year, ever since I finished the last declutter and, you know, started accumulating more things, I really tried a lot more powder foundations, and I've really been getting into those. But of course, I do still like to try regular foundations for my channel just to review them and stuff. But I feel like going forward, I will probably stick to more powder foundation, at least until my makeup tastes change again. I feel like they change kind of yearly. I, you know, discover new things that I like, things that I don't like, and there's that. But let's get into this. First up is the Makeup Forever Ultra HD, and this is in Y245. This was in a Sephora Play box, and this color is just completely not my color. It's extremely yellow, and moreover, the actual foundation looked very, very bad on my skin. It accentuated every single wrinkle, line, pore, everything. It was really bad. I would not recommend this. Next up is the IT Cosmetics Your Skin But Better CC Plus Color Correcting Full Coverage Cream Plus Anti-Aging Hydrating Serum Plus SPF 50 Plus UVA UVB Broad Spectrum Natural Physical UVA UVB Chemical Free Sunscreen Paraben Free. Holy crap. In other words, it's the IT Cosmetics CC cream. But this one I have in the shade Light, and I bought this because they usually send as a free sample with things or gift with purchase. You get the medium shade, and it was just not right for me. So I purchased the light one, and while the color is a pretty good match for me, and the coverage level is pretty good, this broke up on my skin really bad after a couple hours of wear, and it kind of settled into fine lines. Whenever I would get oily, it would kind of sit on top of it and start to separate. It wasn't a good look, so this one is going. I have this Dr. Jart Water Fuse BB Cream, and this is kind of in like a little bit of a light color. I feel like the color was too light for me, and I'm not sure, but I think that these might only come in one shade, which is kind of crappy. But it wasn't right for me. The color wasn't good, and I just didn't like any of the coverage. Like, it seemed like it was nothing. So this is going. Same thing with this Tarte BB cream. It's supposed to be a tinted treatment primer, but for me, since it's not really like, you know, supposed to be a mattifying primer, I wouldn't use it that way. So I just used it as a BB cream, but I just didn't like how it looked. And it's a little bit dark for my taste. So this one's going. Next up, let's talk about this Kevyn Aucoin Sensual Skin Enhancer. I have mine in SX05. And I kept this from last time, but you guys, I literally never even used it this whole year after that declutter. And I think it's just because it's kind of hard to use. Like, I like to just kind of barely tap into the lid to use it as a concealer, but using it that way, it would take me decades to use all of this up. So it's just kind of going to waste in my collection. I'd rather give it to somebody who would actually use it. So I'm going to pass that along to a friend or whatever. But in order to use this as a foundation, you really have to mix it in with something else, like a moisturizer or something like that, and I just don't have time for that. I'm lazy whenever it comes to my routine. I want to get in there and get out, but this one's gonna go. Next up, let's talk about this CoverGirl Vitalist Healthy Elixir. I have mine in 720. The color was not super great for me. I didn't feel like they had a whole lot of good selection whenever it came to undertones. I have a full review on this though, and it did not look good on my face. It was not mattifying at all, and sometimes I'm okay with that. You know, I don't mind blot or whatever, but it just, if it doesn't look good after I wear it for a couple hours, I'm not going to tolerate it, and this one looked really terrible. it kind of slipped around. It was just gross, so this one's definitely going. This Bare Minerals Prime Time BB Primer Cream, I also just use as a BB cream instead of a primer because it's not mattifying. But the shade, oh my gosh, you guys, the shades on these, I don't know what they're thinking. Like, this is the fair one, which seems kind of, you know, yellowy or orangey or something. And then the light one is like straight up Oompa Loompa orange. So for the shade alone, I just can't tolerate it. But even with this, I don't feel like it looked good whenever I blended it out. It kind of tended to like cling to things, and it just was not a good look. And see, this looks kind of ashy now that I've blended it. It doesn't look good. This is going. Next up is the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Foundation. Again, I have a full review on this one. It is in the shade Peach Natural, which is supposed to be light, medium, cool. This looks like, once you put it on your skin, like terracotta. It's just a really bad shade match. And moreover, it smells like paint, it smells like chemicals, and it did not look good on my face. I have close-up pictures of it. It made my face look like I was wearing like dinosaur skin. It was just totally scary. Would not recommend this. Next up is the Neutrogena Healthy Skin Enhancer. This is kind of like a tinted moisturizer type of thing, but I feel like the shade is just kind of weird and a little bit like orangey. And once you blend it in, there's really like no coverage. So this one's gonna go. Next up is this No. 7 Stay Perfect Foundation. And I have mine in the shade Cool Ivory. I love that they had like cool and warm on the things. And the shade on this one was actually a really close match for me. It was pretty much as close to skin tone as I can get. And here's the thing. I like this foundation. I like how it goes on. I like how it blends in. But I don't like how my skin looks with it on. You know what I mean? Like, it looks like I'm wearing a mask of foundation, and I really don't like that. But it feels nice. It's in a glass bottle. It's a nice, like, presentation of the product, but I just can't keep it because it makes my skin look not its best. Next up is the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Matte. So many of my oily skinned people love this, but I kept this around from last time. I have mine in the shade Shell Beige, but oh God, I feel like now for me, the color is a little bit off, and then the color selection of the other colors is not spectacular. But more importantly than that, now that I've been like on acne treatments and stuff, my skin, like around any blemishes that I get and around the perimeter of my face, gets a little bit drier, whereas the skin in the center of my face definitely gets oilier. It just doesn't look good on either part of my skin, so for that reason it's out. Then we have the CoverGirl Ready Set Gorgeous Fresh Complexion Concealer in No. 110. This is Creamy Natural. I do like how this looks on my skin. It actually pleasantly surprised me because I don't really usually have good results with CoverGirl face products, at least. But this one worked well. I am going to keep it just because I feel like of the ones that I've gotten rid of so far, this one looks best on me. I do want to use it more this year though and see, do I still love it after I use it like a lot. Next up is the Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless. I have mine in shade 122 Creamy Beige. This is also a really, really close match to my skin tone, and for that reason alone I love it, but I feel like it also looks really good on my skin. This is my most repurchased foundation, so I will go ahead and keep this one. It's also running a little bit low. I think I'm down to about here right now. So I'll probably have to repurchase again soon, but I do recommend this one if you are oily. Next up is the Neutrogena Hydro Boost Hydrating Tint Foundation. Really, it's a tint, but I have mine in the shade Buff 30, and I like this. However, I want to show you. Look at this. My little doe foot thingy is like wobbling around in here, so the construction of this like thing is a little bit crappy. And I also don't understand why this big doe foot applicator. I would rather just be able to like pump it or, you know, just put it out onto my hand. It is quite thick though, so you can't really like shake it out onto your hand. So I don't love the application of it, but I do like the way that it makes my skin look. It's a very sheer coverage, which I like because it pretty much just evens out my skin and makes everything look a little bit more natural, but it doesn't feel or look like I'm wearing really anything. So I'm going to keep this one. The last foundation that I have is this Maybelline Dream Cushion foundation. I have mine in the shade 15 Ivory. Let me just show you. I feel like it kind of looks in the sponge a little bit orangey, but it does have kind of light coverage. So once I really blend it in, it looks nice. However, I've had this one for I think like 6 or 7 months now. Yeah, and the expiration is 6 months. And the sponge is getting very dry on here, so I'm just going to toss it. And I will probably repurchase this again come like springtime because I like it more in the spring and summer. So of the foundations, I got rid of 11 and I kept 3 of those. All right. The last thing that we have here is setting sprays. And some of these are like kind of prep sprays, but we'll just count them all in here together. First up is this Coola makeup setting spray with green tea and aloe. It has SPF 30 in it, and honestly, this is basically just a spray-on sunscreen for your face because as a makeup setting spray, it really doesn't mattify or anything like that. Maybe if you have dry skin and you want some dewiness, this would be okay, but honestly, I feel like it's just a sunscreen. The Urban Decay All Nighter Setting Spray, I keep getting samples of this. So again, I think it's another one of those products that like, do you even really need to buy the full size? Because they always send it out for free. But this one just doesn't work for me. I don't know why. I don't know how. Everybody else seems to have really good luck with it, but I don't, so it's going. Then I have another Urban Decay. This is the Quick Fix Complexion Prep Priming Spray. It did nothing for me. It was like misting on water, so don't like this. Next up, I bought this tiny bottle of Fix Plus because I've never tried Fix Plus before, and now that Ulta carries MAC, I was like, okay, let me try that. I don't really feel like it does much for my face, but I do like to use it to wet my brush whenever I'm using some eyeshadows, so I will keep this. Then I have my 4 main setting sprays that I have used quite a bit. Let's do the Ulta one first. This is the Ulta Makeup Setting Spray in the mattifying version. This doesn't really do much. I would say it's slightly better than wearing nothing at all, like no setting spray at all, but it really doesn't have lasting effects, so it's going. Next up is the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Setting Spray. I used quite a bit of this. I'm down to like here, but I really don't feel like it did much. It has a decent spray on it. It's not too like, you know, large droplet-y, but overall, I would not repurchase it. I'm not going to bother to keep it. It's just so-so. If you have less oily skin, it may be quite good, but for me, it's not good. Last, I have these 2. And again, I did a full review on the Flower products, so that is on my channel. This is the Flower Seal the Deal Long-Lasting Setting Spray Matte Finish. I absolutely loved this, and I talked about that in the review. And I actually mentioned how it seemed to work quite similarly to the Milani Make It Last Setting Spray, and that I would test them side by side and figure out like which one I liked best. And I did that, and here's the thing. I'm going to keep them both because I feel like this one is really good for pretty much like any time, whether I'm wearing nothing on my face, whether I'm wearing a light face, or whether I'm wearing a full face of makeup. This works great. The Milani one, I feel like whenever I'm wearing not a whole lot on my face, it's just kind of like, you know, so-so. It provides like so-so mattifying, but I find that the more that I wear on my face, like the more layers of product I have on, the better this works. So I feel like it needs products to like, you know, bind to in order to work. So I'm going to keep this one in here in my filming room and use it pretty much whenever I film. But then this one will go with me everywhere, like in the truck, because I'm in the truck pretty much 6 days a week. So this one I will use on a daily basis. And this one I'll just keep in here so that I don't have to worry about bringing this one home with me if I forget. So they're both staying. I feel like the Flower Beauty one is better though. So of the setting sprays, I'm keeping 3 of them, including the Fix Plus, and we're getting rid of 3, 4, 5. So keeping 3, getting rid of 5. Let's do a little quick tally here to see overall what we kept and what we are leaving. 4, 10, 13, 14, 15, 39 are going, and then we are keeping 12 and 13. So keeping 13 and 39 are going. I feel like that's pretty good, and it gives me a much more manageable collection. And of course, I will be buying more things. I have a YouTube channel, and I just like to try out new products. But for right now, this is a good way to start out and build upon, and I don't have all of this other stuff that I would not use on a daily basis. So guys, that is it. I hope that you enjoyed the declutter. Look out for part 2. Make sure that you subscribe so that you don't miss that. I will also link my previous Face Part 1 declutter below, and at the end of this video will be the declutter playlist that you can go ahead and watch. And I will catch you guys next time. Bye!